Welcome back to the DLsCene. One of last week's big stories was focused on Resident Evil 2, specifically its Ghost Survivors free update, which added extras to the base game. And as far as gaming in 2019 is concerned, Resident Evil 2 has been continuing to dominate the headlines, and Capcom are clearly not ready for it to stop, because they put out this brutal, thrilling, and very enjoyable content update this past Friday. And I have to be honest, when the Ghost Survivors was first announced, I wondered whether Capcom would stagger the release of the free and close episodes, being The Forgotten Soldier, Runaway, and No Time to Mourn. Instead, we get them all in one block, as well as a few extra additional surprises on top. All for free! Gaming in 2019 is just the absolute best, isn't it? Admittedly, each of the what-if scenarios are quite small, roughly 6 to 7 screens each, but each one is set at a different point in time of the game, so they all look, feel, and play quite differently. Not least because each character has different weapons, and they'll be fighting against unique types of zombies, some of which have yet to be seen in the base game. So it's important to note that each episode increases in difficulty, with Runaway deemed as a 2-star run, No Time to Mourn 3 stars, and Forgotten Soldier a tougher 4 stars. You can play them in that order, of course, but Capcom have also provided a training difficulty for each episode, and that basically eases you into the action with improved item frequency, more weapons, and slots for your inventory. The kicker, of course, is that if you do go through the training mode, your score won't register onto the online leaderboards. But, you know, fair deal, and it pretty much means you can play these however you like without being played up by the difficulty. There is no set order after all. But before you enter the action, you can customize the look of each of the leads, being Robert Kendo, Catherine Warren, and the enigmatic newcomer, Ghost. And then you can give them everything from a terrifying zombie face to a tiger mask. All sorts of customizables can be unlocked dependent on set conditions within each of the episodes, prompting you to keep going back in to unlock all of them. So yeah, the Ghost Survivors is designed for replayability. Of course, you could run through each of the episodes one time to see the ending and be done with it, but the aim is to create something akin to the 4th Survivor mode, with lasting appeal where you can be competitive with the rest of the world. And it works so well. The odds get really stacked against you as you're sprinting through the levels, choosing your shots wisely and figuring out the layout of the land. Often patience is needed to find a way through, as much as a bit of dumb luck. The goal isn't necessarily to kill every zombie. Frankly, you probably don't have the ammo for that, but to combine your skill sets for the most effective run possible in terms of speed, score, and damage taken. The 3 stories are quite tragic in that they tell a version of events that never actually happened. Capcom recommends you probably shouldn't play these before finishing both Leon and Claire's version of the game, but we'll just try to avoid spoilers as much as possible to say that these stories are a complete 180. Before each run, you see a brief slideshow of the events in the lead up to you taking control, giving you the briefest glimpse into why you need to run and how you can escape Raccoon City. And do you know what? I really like that. The Ghost Survivors can't be called an expansion on events or part of an ongoing story. It's more of an alternative, imaginary perspective using secondary characters to deliver new content. And it also lets you play as beloved, recognized characters who you never ever expected to be in control of, which is actually extremely cool fan service. As you've come to expect from Res 2, it's really intense up there as well, as Catherine and Robert aren't as well equipped as Leon or Claire. I mean, Catherine's wearing a slender white dress with barely any cover for upper body, for God's sake. Ammo conservation has never been more critical, even with backpack wearing zombies dropping nice bundles of loot and sparsely dispersed vending machines dispensing one valuable item from a selection of 3. The backpack zombies in particular are interesting, as they often carry something like a key which you need in order to progress. And when they're sticking very closely to lickers who only respond to sound, you start to get an idea of how your strategies need to adapt for each situation. Of course, it doesn't help that some of the new enemy types require unique strategies of their own. Catherine goes up against this new mutated form of creature that can only be hurt with powerful burst magnum type weapons. Meanwhile, Robert is fighting purple-headed zombies which, when killed, let off noxious vapors that can poison you if you're too close. Step back too far though, and you could end up in the clutches of another zombie. The need for caution and for blue herbs has never been more apparent. Ghost, meanwhile, is a bit of a badass. With his flamethrowers and his machine guns, he's got full-on body armor and he's got lots of military training. To be quite honest, he looks like he's got everything figured out, except for one giant, hulking, hat-wearing, maniac-sized problem that keeps breathing down his neck. I'm a big fan of the Ghost Survivors and what it set out to achieve. I never expected 3 short stories, even if that's kind of sort of what we've got. But for starters, the tales don't actually make sense in relation to the overall plot, since these are events which never actually happen. And with a slew of collectibles to find, outfits to unlock, new pulse-pounding music, each character's unique traits and setting where they find themselves in, plus one big surprise in particular which I don't want to spoil, though perhaps I'll do a separate video on that at a later point when you've had a chance to play. This is a seriously well-conceived, wonderfully implemented piece of content. Did I mention that it's all free? Of course, we'd all love to see some more from Leon and Claire, and maybe even some DLC for Ada or Sherry. Perhaps Capcom have more story-driven DLC for us down the road, who knows? But for now, this is the perfect excuse to dive back into Resident Evil 2, no matter how many times you've played it before, and whether or not you've even finished it. So whether you pick the game up at launch, or you've yet to experience the horrors of Raccoon City, the overall package just became even better value for money, and it's as good a piece of free DLC as, quite frankly, I've ever seen. Are you playing the Ghost Survivors? What's your fastest time? What accessories do you use? Do you have a favourite campaign? Let us know in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you, and stay tuned with us for more news on the DL scene. See you next time.